You're not my father. The DNA test arrived on a Thursday afternoon. I remember because Thursdays were always Mom's late shift at the hospital and Dad's poker night with the guys from work. I'd been home alone cramming for my calculus final when the notification pinged on my phone. Results ready. Two simple words that would shatter 18 years of my life. I hadn't thought much about it when I'd swabbed my cheeks 6 weeks earlier. It was just something my friend Eric and I had done on a whim after his grandmother discovered a long-lost cousin through one of those ancestry sites. "Dude, what if you're secretly royalty or something?" he joked, and we both laughed as we filled our little plastic tubes of saliva. I clicked through the app casually, more interested in procrastinating on derivatives than actually reviewing my genetic heritage. European ancestry, as expected. Some health markers, a chart showing my genetic traits that correctly predicted my blue eyes and early onset gray hair, a trait I'd always attributed to my dad's side. Dad started going gray at 20, and I'd noticed my first silver strands on my 16th birthday. Then I saw it, the Family Connections tab. Eric Thompson, friend. No genetic relationship detected. That made sense. We weren't related. Potential family matches, 12. I clicked, curious who might have used this service that I could be related to. Maternal relatives. 11 paternal relatives. 0. I frowned. That seemed strange. Dad had a large extended family, cousins in Minnesota, an aunt in Florida. Not finding matches could just mean none of them had taken the test, I reasoned. But then I saw something else. A notification badge on the DNA Insights section. DNA inconsistency detected. My heart began to race as I tapped it. Based on your genetic profile, we have detected an inconsistency with your reported family relationships. The person you have listed as your father, Thomas Mitchell, shows no genetic relationship to you. I stared at those words until they blurred, reading them over and over as if they might somehow change. The room felt suddenly cold. Thomas Mitchell, my father, the man who taught me to ride a bike, who coached my Little League team, who helped me rebuild my first car, who'd been planning my college visits for next fall, wasn't my father? It had to be a mistake. These tests weren't 100% accurate, right? I Googled frantically, searching for false paternity DNA test results. But everything I read said the same thing. Modern DNA tests were over 99% accurate for determining paternity. I called Eric immediately. "Hey, did you get your results?" he asked cheerfully. "Yeah," I said, my voice sounding distant even to my own ears. "Did yours say anything weird?" "Nope. Turns out I'm exactly who I thought I was. Boring old me, 47% Eastern European, 32% Scottish, a splash of—" "Mine says my dad isn't my dad," I interrupted, the words tumbling out. A long silence followed. "Holy shit, Josh. Are you serious?" I sent him a screenshot. "Dude," his voice dropped. "What are you going to do?" I had no idea. I just knew I couldn't face my father, or the man I'd always called my father. At dinner that night, I feigned illness that evening, claiming a migraine. Mom brought me soup and felt my forehead, concern etched across her face. I watched her closely, searching for, what? Signs of a liar? The woman who'd nursed me through chickenpox, who'd stayed up all night helping me finish science fair projects, who still tucked my childhood stuffed bear into my suitcase whenever I went to summer camp? "You feel a little warm," she said softly. "Try to get some sleep, honey." I nodded, unable to meet her eyes. After she left, I heard Dad's heavy footsteps on the stairs, followed by a gentle knock on my door. "Hey, buddy, Mom says you're under the weather." "Dad," Thomas poked his head in, his familiar smile framed by the salt and pepper beard I'd always assumed I'd grow one day too. "Just tired," I mumbled. He crossed the room and ruffled my hair, the way he'd done since I was small. "Finals week kicking your butt, huh? Don't worry, you'll crush 'em. Got those Mitchell brains. Mitchell brains. Mitchell hair. Mitchell eyes. Mitchell temper." How many times had I heard those phrases throughout my life? "Get some rest, Josh. Love you, kiddo. Love you too, I whispered automatically as he closed the door. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at old family photos on my phone. The resemblance everyone always commented on. Was it just wishful thinking? In some pictures, I could see similarities between Dad and me. But were they real or just the result of similar expressions, haircuts, or mannerisms picked up from 18 years of living together? By morning, I knew what I had to do. I needed more tests, more proof. I ordered 2 more DNA tests from different companies the next day using my emergency credit card. I needed to be certain before I said anything. While waiting for those results, I began observing my parents with new eyes, looking for clues, inconsistencies, anything that might explain what was happening. Dad and I had always been close. We shared interests: baseball, classic rock, old cars. He'd taught me to play guitar on his prized Fender, patiently guiding my fingers through chords until my fingertips were raw. Was that just good parenting, or had he been trying extra hard because he knew? Mom was harder to read. She'd always been the practical one in our family, the one who remembered dentist appointments and permission slips. Looking back, there were moments when she'd seemed almost overly insistent about my connection to Dad. "You're just like your father," she'd say whenever I was being stubborn. Had that been guilt talking? The 2 additional tests arrived within days of each other, and I swabbed my cheeks in secret, sending them off with a desperate prayer that the first test had been wrong. 3 weeks later, I had my answer. All 3 tests confirmed the same thing. Thomas Mitchell and I shared no genetic material. The truth felt like a physical weight pressing down on me. I lost 5 pounds that month, unable to eat. My grades slipped. I started avoiding Dad, making excuses to miss our usual father-son breakfast on Saturdays. I couldn't stand to look at him, knowing what I knew, or rather, what I didn't know. Who was my biological father? And did Dad know he wasn't? It was a lazy Sunday afternoon in July when I finally found my first real clue. Mom had asked me to find her reading glasses, and I was searching her home office when I noticed her old external hard drive plugged into her laptop. The folder was right there on the desktop. 2005 backups. I was born in 2005. I shouldn't have looked. I knew it was wrong, but I felt entitled to some truth after 18 years of lies. I copied the entire folder to my USB drive, heart hammering against my ribs. That night, alone in my room, I began searching. Most files were innocuous: work documents, digital photos from the era of flip phones, music playlists. But then I found a folder titled simply J. Inside were emails, hundreds of them, saved as individual files, between my mother and someone named James. The earliest dated back to 2004, when Mom was already married to Dad. From james.wilson@turner-medical.com to catherine.mitchell@gmail.com. Subject: Today, Cat. I can't stop thinking about what happened after the conference. I know you said it was a mistake, but it didn't feel like one to me. Is there any chance we could talk? Coffee, nothing more. I respect your marriage, but I need to see you. Jay. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely click to the next email. From catherine.mitchell@gmail.com to james.wilson@turner-medical.com. Subject: Today. James. We should never have crossed that line. Tom and I have been trying for a baby for 3 years. He's devastated every month when nothing happens. I can't do this to him. Please understand and respect my decision. It's better for everyone if we keep our relationship professional. Gay and Catherine. I read through email after email, watching their relationship unfold over months. My mother's resistance gradually weakening. James's persistent pursuit. Their eventual affair, conducted in hotel rooms after medical conferences. In his apartment when Dad was traveling for work. And then, the email that made my blood run cold. From catherine.mitchell@gmail.com to james.wilson@turner-medical.com. Subject: We need to talk. I'm pregnant. The timing makes it impossible to be Tom's. I don't know what to do. He's so excited, James. He thinks this is our miracle after trying for so long. I can't tell him. I can't destroy him like that. Please call me. We need to figure this out. The room spun around me. James Wilson. My biological father was someone named James Wilson. I Googled him immediately. Turner Medical was a pharmaceutical company where Mom had worked before I was born. James Wilson was listed as a former research director, now based in Seattle. I had a name. I had a face. The company website from 2010 showed a tall man with dark hair in a serious expression. I could see myself in his features, the shape of his nose, the set of his jaw. That night, I drafted and deleted a dozen emails to this stranger. What would I even say? Hi, I think you're my biological father, and my whole life has been a lie? Instead, I created a new email account and sent him a message with my phone number. No mention of DNA tests or my mother. Just a request to talk about a sensitive family matter. He called the next day. Is this Joshua Mitchell? A deep voice asked cautiously. Yes, my voice cracked. Is this James Wilson? It is. He paused. Your message was rather vague. How can I help you? I took a deep breath. I recently did a DNA test. It showed that Thomas Mitchell isn't my biological father. The silence that followed stretched for what felt like minutes. I see, he finally said, his voice careful, measured. And you believe I might be? I found emails between you and my mother from 2005. Catherine Mitchell. She worked at Turner Medical. Another long silence, then. I remember Catherine, yes? His voice had softened. I suspected this might happen someday, with all these DNA tests everyone's doing now. So you knew about me? I asked, my voice rising. You knew and never tried to contact me? Joshua, he said gently, your mother made it very clear that Thomas was your father in every way that mattered. She didn't want me involved. She said it would destroy her marriage, destroy your family. So you just walked away? I couldn't keep the accusation from my voice. I made annual contributions to a college fund in your name, he said quietly. Catherine would send me a photo of you once a year, on your birthday. I've watched you grow up from a distance. My head was spinning. Mom had maintained contact with him all these years? Does Thomas know? I asked. Not to my knowledge. Catherine was adamant about protecting him from the truth. She loved him very much, Joshua. What happened between us was complicated. I need to meet you, I said suddenly. I need to see you in person. He agreed to fly to Chicago that weekend. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop downtown, away from anywhere my parents might go. I didn't tell anyone about the meeting. I made up an excuse about a study group and took the train downtown Saturday morning. My stomach was in knots as I entered the coffee shop, scanning the faces for someone who might be my biological father. I spotted him immediately, older than his photo, with gray streaking his dark hair, but unmistakably the man from the website, and unmistakably related to me. He stood when he saw me, his eyes wide. Joshua, he said, his voice thick with emotion, you look so much like my father. We sat across from each other, two strangers connected by blood, neither knowing quite what to say. He told me about himself, divorced, no other children, a research physician specializing in immunology. I told him about school, my interests, my plans for college. Your mother sent me your acceptance letter to Northwestern, he said with pride. Pre-med, impressive. She sent you that? I asked, stunned. My acceptance had only come through last month, he nodded. She's kept me updated on all your major milestones. First steps, first day of school, your science fair wins. I felt sick. All these years, my mother had been living this double life, sharing my private moments with the stranger while maintaining the fiction that Dad, Thomas, was my only father. Why are you telling me this now? I asked suddenly. Why agree to meet me? James sighed deeply. Because you deserve the truth, and because I've respected Catherine's wishes for 18 years. But you're an adult now. You reached out to me. That changes things. Did you love her? I needed to know. He looked away. Yes, very much. But she chose her marriage, her life with Thomas. I respected that decision. Did you ever want to be part of my life? His eyes met mine, and I saw pain there. Every day. But I believed Catherine when she said it would destroy your family. I didn't want to be responsible for that. I left that meeting with more questions than answers. James had given me his contact information, told me I could reach out anytime. He'd also given me a thumb drive with photos of his parents, my grandparents, and information about medical history I should know. But most importantly, he'd given me confirmation. My mother had actively perpetuated this deception for my entire life. I spent the next week in turmoil, unsure how to proceed. Should I confront my mother? Tell Dad? Thomas? Pretend I never discovered the truth? The decision was made for me when Dad found the DNA test results in my desk drawer. I'd come home from summer job to find him sitting on my bed, the papers in his hands, his face ashen. "Josh," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What is this?" I froze in the doorway, panic rising in my chest. "Dad, how long have you known?" he asked, his eyes never leaving the papers. "A few months," I admitted. "I took the test with Eric for fun. I never expected—" My voice trailed off. Dad nodded slowly as if absorbing a physical blow. "Does your mother know you did this?" "No." I moved cautiously into the room, sitting beside him on the bed. "Dad, I met him. My biological father. His name is—" "James Wilson," Dad finished, his voice flat. I stared at him, stunned. "You know?" A bitter smile crossed his face. "I suspected back then. Your mother worked late so often. There were phone calls she'd take in another room. But I loved her so much, and we'd been trying for a baby for years." He looked up at me, his eyes swimming with tears. "When she told me she was pregnant, I was so happy I didn't question it. And when you were born, Josh, the moment I held you, you were mine. DNA didn't matter." "You knew?" I repeated, incredulous. "All this time?" He shook his head. "I suspected, but I chose not to know for certain. I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Your mother seemed so happy, so devoted to our family. And you," his voice broke, "you were my son in every way that mattered." I felt tears streaming down my face. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" "What would have been the point?" Dad asked softly. "I made my choice the day you were born. I chose to be your father." He paused. "But I always feared this day would come." We sat in silence for a long moment, both processing what had been said. "What happens now?" I finally asked. Dad took a deep breath. "Now we wait for your mother to come home, and we all have a very difficult conversation. Mom found us in the living room, the DNA test results on the coffee table between us. The color drained from her face the moment she saw them. "Tom," she whispered. "Josh, what's going on?" "I think you know, Catherine," Dad said quietly. "Josh took a DNA test. The truth is out." Mom sank into an armchair, her hands trembling. "Josh, honey, I can explain." "I met James," I interrupted. "He told me everything. About the affair, about how you've been sending him my photos all these years." Dad's head snapped up. "You've been in contact with him? All this time?" The look of betrayal on his face cut through the room like a physical force. Mom was crying now. "Tom, please, it wasn't like that. I felt he had a right to know Josh was okay, that his son was thriving." "His son," Dad repeated, the words like knives. 18 years, Catherine. 18 years of lying to my face." "I was trying to protect our family," Mom cried. "By maintaining a relationship with your lover?" Dad's voice was rising now. "By sharing moments of our son's life with another man behind my back?" I'd never seen him so angry, so hurt. The veins in his neck stood out, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "Josh was always yours," Mom insisted, "in every way that matters." "Except you never gave me the choice," Dad shot back. "You decided for me, for all of us." I sat silently watching the foundations of my family crumble before my eyes. Each revelation feeling like another brick falling. "Did you ever plan to tell me?" I asked my mother, my voice small. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. No, sweetheart, I thought, I thought what you didn't know couldn't hurt you. But it has hurt me, I said. Finding out like this, feeling like my whole life has been based on a lie. That's hurt me more than knowing the truth ever could have. Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled away. The gesture felt like a betrayal to Dad, who had just had his world shattered yet again. I've been faithful to this family for 18 years, Mom pleaded. One mistake. This wasn't one mistake, Dad interrupted. The affair may have been, but lying to me every day for 18 years? Keeping in touch with him? That was a choice you made every single day. The three of us sat in that living room for hours, the conversations cycling through anger, grief, explanations, and recriminations. Mom tried desperately to salvage something from the wreckage, but with each revelation, each admission, I could see Dad pulling further away. I need some air, he finally said, standing abruptly. I can't. I need to think. He walked out the front door without another word. The sound of his car starting and pulling away left a deafening silence in its wake. Mom turned to me, her eyes red and swollen. Josh, please, you have to understand. Everything I did because I love you. Because I love this family. But I couldn't accept that anymore. Love didn't lie. Love didn't deceive. Love didn't maintain secret relationships for 18 years. Did you ever love him? I asked. James? Her face crumpled. It's not that simple, Josh. It is that simple, I insisted. Did you love him? After a long pause, she nodded. Yes, but I chose your father. I chose our family. No, I said, standing up. You chose to lie to us. There's a difference. I walked out of the room, leaving her alone with the consequences of her choices. Dad didn't come home that night, or the next. He called me directly, letting me know he was staying at a hotel while he figured things out. He assured me none of this changed how he felt about me. I was still his son, would always be his son. Mom tried everything to reach him, calls, texts, even showing up at his workplace. But 18 years of deception had created a chasm too wide to bridge. A week later, he returned to pack some things. I helped him load boxes into his car, neither of us saying much. What was there to say? As he was about to leave, he pulled me into a fierce hug. I need you to know something, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Biology doesn't make a father. Being there does. Loving you does. And I have loved you every single day of your life. That will never change. I nodded against his shoulder, unable to speak through my tears. I won't ask you to choose sides, he continued. She's your mother, and regardless of her mistakes, she loves you too. But I can't be with her anymore. I can't look at her without seeing 18 years of lies. I understood. The trust was irreparably broken. Dad moved into an apartment across town. We still had our Saturday breakfasts, though now they were tinged with a sadness that hadn't been there before. He filed for divorce, and Mom didn't contest it. As for James, my biological father, we'd begun a cautious relationship. Not father and son exactly, but something new, something undefined. He respects my boundaries and understands that Thomas Mitchell will always be my real dad. Mom lives alone now in the house full of memories. I visit her, but things between us are strained. The weight of her deception still stands between us like an invisible wall. She's in therapy, trying to understand why she made the choices she did, why she could never bring herself to tell the truth. I was afraid, she told me during one of our difficult conversations. Afraid of losing you both. And in the end, that fear cost me everything. I'm starting college next month. Northwestern, as planned. Dad and James have both offered to help with tuition. I accepted Dad's offer. It feels right somehow, honoring the 18 years he's already invested in me. As for the future, I don't know. Forgiveness doesn't come easily, but I'm learning that the truth, however painful, is better than living in a carefully constructed lie. My mother is learning that too, though her lesson came at a much higher price. Sometimes I wonder how different things might have been if she'd been honest from the beginning. If she'd given Dad the choice to stay or go, knowing I wasn't biologically his. He insists he would have stayed, would have chosen me regardless. I believe him, because that's what real fathers do. They choose their children day after day, year after year, regardless of blood, regardless of biology. The DNA test changed everything and nothing. Thomas Mitchell is still my father, always will be. DNA may tell you who you're related to, but it doesn't tell you who your family is. That's a choice we make every day, with our actions, with our love, and with the truth.